Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Value Consultant, the only Dutch channel that talks about uranium. And yes, I'm talking again in broken English because I have another interview. And this time I have John Polomny on. If you don't know John, you are stupid because you have to. I've been listening to John for the last 3 years now, and he's really in my weekend routine. And I even postpone listening to him because I have to sometimes drive like a 1.5 hour to a customer on Monday, and I start my week listening to John in my car, and then I'm good to go for the rest of the week. So, John, delighted to have you on. Welcome to the show. And for the people who don't know you, who's John Polomny? What did he do? What is he doing? And what is he going to do?
Well, thanks for the introduction. I appreciate you being a longtime listener. That's terrific. Basically, my name's John Polomny. I describe myself as I have no formal. I want to advise everyone I have no formal investment training. I'm not working in finance. I'm just a guy on the internet that has been investing for 40 years, and I've learned a lot of lessons. I consider myself well read. I have a voracious appetite for information. So I know I'm one of these people that knows a little about a lot of subjects, but I'm not like a PhD in history. But I have interests in history and biographies and economics. My hero is kind of like intellectual hero is Charlie Munger, and recently departed, unfortunately, in the last day or two, Murray Stahl, who was the CEO of Horizon Kinetics. He's probably one of the smartest people I've ever read. He's very not known. He's not a well known figure, but he was a tremendous value investor. So I, I basically worked in the utility industry, electrical generation of all facets, operations, construction, um, managing plants, building plants, project management, whether it was coal, um, natural gas, nuclear, renewables. I had a big career, long career in one of the largest utility in the U.S. And during that time, I mean, I did a lot of investing, speculating, and one of my main interests is energy. Uh, I consider myself kind of not really an expert, but I know a lot about energy. And because I think it's important because energy is, you know, inculcated in everything. It's in everything we do, everything that people take it for granted, I think. So um, basically, I'd say for the first part of my investing career, I probably lose like most investors. I kind of just didn't really have a plan. I didn't really know what I was doing. But then I started realizing, I tell the story, utility business, we just don't at our individual plant, we don't just do whatever we want. We have like if we have a problem with a boiler or steam turbine or some type of controls, whatever, we have the subject matter experts at the home office. These guys are expert. Their whole life was they're usually about late 50s, early 60s. They whole life is around boilers. They know everything about a boiler. Every question you answer like a guru. And so I always know the answer. So I started thinking to myself in investing, well, who are the gurus? Who are the people that have been the most successful? Because, success leaves clues. So I started investigating who are the most successful investors. And obviously that takes you to the names that everybody knows: Buffett, Munger, Howard Marks, all of these people. But I found a lot of other ones too. There was a guy that I found that was in the 15 or 1600s in the northern part of Germany. It was the Hansa trading people. And I forget the guy's name now. There was a Jacob something, but he was like the richest man that ever lived, and how he did things. And I found commonality around these people. And it was always about, you know, your returns are quite a bit depend on the price you pay for an asset. If you overpay for assets, then your ability to have market beating returns is usually not good. So that kind of brought me to like value investing and getting away from chasing the news or chasing rumors or tips or whatever's hot. I don't know how many people in your audience, or if you yourself are a fisherman, but if you ever like, well, I use the analogy or the term chasing the shiny object like a fish does. You throw the lure in, it's shiny, it chases it all over the place. So I try to make my investing long term. I look for value. I look for sectors that are out of favor, sectors, countries, themes out of favor. I try to determine if they have some type of catalyst or some type of something that could happen to change the market's perception of them. Because if it does, and something goes from really horrible to just less bad on the scale, it doesn't even have to go to good or terrific. It just needs to go to less bad. You can have a tremendous return. So I'm just a regular guy. I describe myself as a guy on the internet. I just started talking about this on YouTube. And then when Substack came out, I had a newsletter that I was managing with all these different things, and Substack came out. And so everything's on Substack. And it's just people seem to find value in the things that I discuss and some of the ideas. We've beaten the S&P tremendously. We've crushed the S&P since I put the model portfolios together. I have a model portfolio for capital appreciation and a dividend portfolio. But my dividend portfolio is kind of unique because um, I try to look for out of favor sectors that are uh, cash flowing very good and returning cash to cash flows, like a total return, buybacks, debt pay downs, and dividend growth. And both of those model portfolios have outperformed. I just use the S&P as a benchmark. I'm kind of like Buffett. I tell the average person, I caveat these discussions with the average investor person who has a regular job. Their best bet is just, I don't even say buy an S&P fund, buy a low cost world fund, world index fund that rebalances every year, and just dollar cost average into that for your investing career, and you'll probably do fine. But of course, we both know that people want to do their own investing. Unfortunately, the research shows that most people are not very good at doing their own investing. So I try to caveat that this is, it's not something you can just do. It's like anything else, being good at golf or being good at some hobbies or whatever. You have to put time into it. It's a craft like cabinet making or, whatever, bonsai trees. You have to put time into it and to become good at it. You see what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be, you don't have to be a Buffett or a Munger. You're not going to get 20% a year, most people, but it's just like if you play golf, you're not going to be on the professional PGA tour, but you can be the club champion if you practice enough or something like that. That's kind of the analogy I use. So you can always improve, you can always learn more. And I go back to what Munger said, and this is the last thing I'll say, then I'll pause. But constant, if you're going to be in this business, if you're going to do these things, you have to be constantly educating yourself, and it has to be lifelong, because as interest compounds, knowledge compounds. And you have to be, as Munger said, building that lattice work in your mind, interconnecting ideas and information. And so it's like he said, he went to a graduating class of Stanford MBA students. One of them asked him, Mr. Munger, what would you advise us to be successful in our careers? And he said, read 500 pages a day. I mean, that's not probably everybody could do that, but the point is that he said that he had never met a man that was successful that didn't read. And so there's ideas and books that are worth millions, if not billions of dollars. Because what's interesting, I will stop this time, I promise,
No, go
is
ahead.
that human nature is the same throughout history. And so the common follies, mistakes, they keep repeating themselves. We were talking before we came on, know, empires constantly transitioning, peaking, going into decline, new empires emerge. There's always something happening. And if you kind of understand things from a historical perspective, things don't see, we're in this world, everybody's like, oh, I don't understand how chaotic it is. It's not hard to understand. It's the same things that have happened throughout history. It's mostly people of wealth and power conspiring to try to get more wealth and power. There's
Yeah,
nothing new here.
yeah,
So anyway,
yeah.
that's kind of my story. I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions uh, that you might have to clarify.
You're in. doing this full time now?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm retired now. I retired a while ago, and so I just manage my own portfolio, and then I just do the videos and uh, Substack. It's kind of like a side business, which has taken off. I mean, I'm very thankful for
Yeah.
how well that's done. That's the income from that has far exceeded what I ever made, and I was well paid in my other job, so it's done pretty well. I'm very blessed and grateful.
Living the dream. Nice to
Yeah,
hear.
it's a lot better when you can do what you want to do and enjoy to do than saying, "I gotta go up and deal with these people," or whatever, and, I mean, you work, so
Yeah, yeah, I work here. Yeah.
so
I love my work, by the way, but
well, that's good. That's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah, that's really I really enjoy it, and I have a very good employer, so it helps also. Mentioned like reading books and Charlie Munger. What I've learned the past few years is that it's also a lot about psychology. So not only knowledge, but also yeah, your mental strength. Not selling high and did I say that right? No, not selling low and buying high, but just the opposite. And you know, keep keep your focus and stick to the plan. And um, so I'm trying on my YouTube channel, which is in Dutch, for my fellow countrymen and people in Belgium in particular to learn those things. Just keep calm, and you know what you have to buy now. It's commodities and energy. That's the play, and it's going to be the play for a couple of, I don't know, 5, 6, 8, 10, 15 years. So how can it be difficult? Yeah, of course it's difficult because it's going crazy every week. You have that you got to put it down to the side and stick to the plan. Um, okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about my country, the Netherlands, and hope for some reaction there. So I have to read something. Um, uh, Let me briefly explain the Netherlands for your American audience. The Netherlands is a small, it's 17 times smaller than Texas, by the way, rich and highly organized trading country. Politically, it runs on coalitions and compromise rather than a winner takes all elections. So it's generally more consensus driven, but also more fragmented. We have 17 political parties here, John. 17. Yeah. Can you imagine? And it's sometimes slower to act, but it's always slower to act. Economically, it's very strong in logistics, trade, technology, agriculture, and specialized industry. But the other side of that success is dependence. The Netherlands depends heavily on open markets, imported energy, global trade flows, and relatively stable international order. So, in a world that is open, predictable, and relatively cheap, the Dutch model works extremely well. But in the world that is becoming more protectionist, more expensive, more geopolitically unstable, the same model can start to be more fragile. So, I guess the real question is, does the Dutch model still work in the world we are moving into? Or was it really built for a world that's now disappearing? And if we have to adapt, what should we do?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Thank you.
So this, my opinion on this stuff, because this is I've been talking about this, not in specifically to the Netherlands, but it applies um, to what you said. I think it applies to the latter situation. I think the post world. Well, let's use the terms that are used. The post World War II neoliberal world order is in decline. It's going away. Um, it doesn't mean it's a good thing, a bad thing. People can like it or not like it. I don't control it. People can get mad about it. It is what it is. And it's for many reasons. Um, Primarily, it's because kind of like if you listen to a lot of I mean, as countries get wealthier over time, and I'm talking about any country, as they become into their flourishing, and especially today in the what I call the global South and East, people can call them the BRICS countries. You had a situation after World War II where the Anglosphere, the Atlanticists, the United States and its allies in Western Europe and the UK, they came out of the situation pretty good. I mean, especially the United States, it was not destroyed. Its industrial base, it was not. We have two moats around us, the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. We were not attacked directly here. So, we had an advantage to get above everybody else, especially like in Western Europe. People had to rebuild the place twice in 40 years. We had two world wars. We all know this. And so we had the Cold War. And I think that, what I had a recent interview with a guy named Jeremy McCown, and we talked about this. I think the West has entered a what you call I call it a Brezhnev type situation that the Soviet Union answered.
Yeah,
You have
I
a
read your piece
situation where you have
about
these
that.
huge bureaucracies. I mean, look at the comparisons. It's never going to be a one-on-one comparison. I'm not saying that the EU will become like Soviet system, but look at the situation. You just mentioned you have 17 political parties in the Netherlands. Okay, that's fine. You also have members of parliament in the European Parliament, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, they don't have any power. The commission has all the power. I mean, yes, they get in there and argue, and it's interesting to listen to some of the MPs and some of the people are, but in the end, if the commission comes out and says, well, we're going to do this, or we're going to have this standard for importation of bananas or whatever, it's pretty much the way it is. And these people are not elected. If they're making bad decisions, if they don't have a vision for the future, if they don't if they're falling into protecting their little fiefdom and the other nomenclatura in Brussels, then how does that benefit the average person in the Netherlands? Okay. And if they're making bad, how do you get rid of these people? Well, you don't, just like in the Soviet Union. So I call it like this. I use this analogy. It's kind of a religious analogy. All of the rituals, the hymns, the liturgies are done.
Hmm.
We have elections. We have all these things that we worshipped in this post World War II, but nobody believes it anymore. Most people. And it's varying degrees. Yes, there's always true believers, but uh, people are like, well, my standard of living's going down, or I don't understand why my cousin got raped by this migrant from Syria. Why is he here? And it starts infecting the mind, and it's like it causes, what do you call it? Cognitive dissonance. And
Hmm.
so what I see is a sclerosis. I see applies to the entire West, the United States also. And, what kind of a people who are reliant on uh, cheap. I made this comment with another interviewer. What kind of decision is this? You're telling me that Olaf Scholz, he didn't even know that the United States blew up Nord Stream till after they told him. This is an act of war. Let's throw the Dutch in here. Northern European countries, industrious, engineering, trading, like you said, with
Yeah.
in the Netherlands. Germany with engineering and manufacturing prowess, acknowledged around the world. Couple that with $100 trillion in Russian natural resources and a common market between Europe and Russia. That's a billion people. There was no way the United States was going to let that happen, and they didn't. It's the Mackinder doctrine. This goes
Yeah.
all the way back to the 1800s. Okay,
Yeah.
and most people don't even know what we're talking about. I'm getting into other things, and so they destroyed it. And so, as somebody said, a long time ago, like for a perfect example, is this whole thing around NATO. What's the point of NATO? Somebody said, well, I was talking to somebody the other day, they were foaming at the mouth. Well, you don't understand. Putin is going to, if he's not going to stop in Ukraine. Why in the hell would he want to invade Western Europe? There's nothing there. He wants what? All the pension obligations and debt obligations of Western Europe for the next 50. There's nothing there to steal.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
You
can't
know what
explain it to me.
you know what the Dutch government did? We have to pay a freedom tax now
Oh, that's
to
awesome.
to cover the defense spending.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they're going to raise defense spending. And I also saw that
Yeah.
in Germany, for example, they passed a law in uh, in the parliament
Yeah.
that if you're a military-age man and you wanna leave the country, say you wanna go to Thailand and vacation for 6 months or go teach in China, you
Yeah,
have to get permission from the government to leave now.
yeah,
This is what I'm talking about,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
So, everybody's looking at this going like, "How does this benefit me as an average person?" This is I'm paying more taxes, I'm more regulation, I'm being told all this nonsense. I mean, this is how I look at it. I'm sure there's people there. I mean, you see the elections, things across the union are shifting to the right. They're doing everything they can to keep the project together. And so, this is my view on things. So, as the global South and East increases economically, countries have interests. They don't have allies. And so, if you're India, it's like I give these little examples to prove my point. So, this is when the Russian-Ukrainian war broke out, and India was still buying, still is buying Russian oil. And
yeah.
so, one of these smarmy reporters from Bloomberg Europe or something was interviewing the energy minister from India, and she said, "I don't understand. Don't you understand this horrible regime did this, blah, 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 and you're still buying oil at a discount from Russia. Why are you doing that?" He said, "Because I have 1.4 billion oil consumers, and our interest and my obligation is to make sure they have sufficient energy. That's it. That's why." And so, if you want to make, and so I'm not opposed to if people in the union and people in individual countries have made a moral judgment and they want to cut themselves off and cut themselves off for pipeline gas from Russia. That's a decision, but I don't remember anybody having a referendum there about it. They just did it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm just using it as an example. I'm not as an example of a similar example now is this whole idea. There's really not a lot of innovation in Europe. I do find it's so easy in the United States to create a startup, to create an entity. I can do it in a day with create an LLC online and start raising capital on Start Engine or all kinds. There's all kinds of ways. This is very difficult to do in Europe, from my understanding. It's very sclerotic. And then you're not incentivized, and you have. I remember, like in the Netherlands recently. You can clarify this for the audience, especially the Americans. I saw this stupid idea again being raised about a wealth tax. This is like economics 101. Like, if say you have an asset worth 100,000
Oh, it's
euros
the yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah,
and
yeah,
it appreciates,
yeah.
yeah, then you have to liquidate part of the asset to pay the tax. This
Oh,
is not how you form capital in
yeah.
a capitalist country,
It's
but this is the
it's like
mentality you deal with.
30% on unrealized gains,
There you go. And
and I'm already paying 50% tax, income tax.
that's it.
Yeah,
And this is a terrible idea.
yeah,
This will decimate capital formation.
yeah. And
But anyways,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. Now you also see big companies leave the Netherlands. So
Yeah,
yeah, you're also getting a brain drain here.
that's right.
Yeah, in the end. You mentioned friends and common interests. Um, I think people in and also governments in Northwestern Europe got pretty pretty scared about what America is doing. They're not saying it because Rutte, Mark Rutte, he's
Head of NATO,
what
yeah.
his nickname is, Mark Rutte,
No,
Teflon Mark. Yeah. The guy is so slick. Nothing sticks to him. It is all. He's been the prime minister for many years in the Netherlands, and there has been a lot of a lot of scandals and issues. But you can't catch the guy, and maybe that's a good thing. I've been thinking about that lately because the Netherlands, we are not winner take all. We are compromise and negotiating and talking and keeping the EU together and keeping NATO together. um, and he's just the right guy in the right place if you want that. Um, so maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. I don't like him, but maybe in this situation where there's a lot of polarization, maybe it's a good thing that he's the guy who's running NATO. Um, but I think many countries and many people in Northwestern Europe got scared of America because they kidnapped a president in Venezuela. But Venezuela is a long distance from here, so who cares? but they also want Greenland from our friends Denmark. Denmark is just a country just like the Netherlands. So um, yeah, where this is all gonna go to if you compare America with Northwestern Europe? Is it all going to fall apart, or what's your view on that? Because you need, you may not need allies, but you need friends, you need common interest, and I have the feeling we are, drifting apart.
No, I mean, the United States is the, the problem with the United States, the current uh, administration is basically insane. I mean, I supported Donald Trump in 2016. Donald Trump, I always knew who he was. I'm not a psychiatrist, but it's obvious what he is. He's an egomaniac.
Yeah,
He's likes yes men around him. He doesn't like to be wrong. He's a narcissist. I mean, I'm not making clinic. I'm just making observations.
yeah. I saw a
Donald
quote
Trump.
from his mom on X. Did you read it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And so everybody kind of should have known what he was. Donald Trump didn't invent make America great. And what it is America's been in decline, okay, since the 70s. We outsourced all of our manufacturing, we financialized the economy, we left millions of people behind in the Midwest and our former industrial base. This is what really woke me up in the last 10 years when I was building all these renewable projects in these rural areas.
yeah,
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I would be driving through the middle of a small town that used these towns would be like back in the day. You'd have a town, 8,000, 10,000 people, maybe would have some farming around it, would have one factory that made something, brake pads or something, and most of the people worked there and that supported the town. That all went away. Well, nothing came to replace it. And so you go into the town and I would be like, I had to live there for 6 months or something. I would go to the grocery store, and the people do not look good. They don't look healthy. There's alcoholism. I drive through at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to go pick up a part in town, and there's young men just sitting on their porch. Why aren't they working? What are they
yeah,
doing? Well, they're all, dealing drugs or using drugs or who knows what they're doing. It's very dysfunctional. And so I think there was a lot of people were like, we used to have this saying here in the U.S. Uh, you know, if you work hard and you do the right thing, then you'll have a better life than your parents had. Well, that's the American dream. That doesn't exist anymore. And people were the angst, the people are getting nervous about it. What am I going to do? You told me to go to college. You told me to get good grades. You said I would get a job after that. And there's no jobs now. And so there was this whole underlying, if you will, like under a volcano getting ready to erupt. And
mhm,
Donald Trump, being a showman, he's he's not. I don't look at him being intelligent. He's crafty. There's a difference, right? Crafty, slick is a
yeah,
word we
yeah,
use.
yeah,
And he saw that. And he said, "I
yeah,
can tap into that." The
yeah.
guy has been a Democrat his whole life. Okay, if you look at his thing, okay, but he's slick enough to say, "I can ride this wave." That's what he did. And so the first regime administration, I was like, okay, we'll see if he follows through and taps into this. Well, we know what happened. So then he was out of power. Then we had this other disaster, and this is, I mean, it's like I tell people, you're living in Gibbon here. Okay, people say, well, Nero was horrible. What could be worse than him? Then they get Tiberius and Claudius. It just gets
Yeah.
worse. So it's the same thing here when you're in terminal decline. And what kind? It's like Herman Hoppe. He's a political scientist. He's kind of a monarchist, actually, but he wrote the book "Democracy: The God That Failed." He said, "This is democracy. This is the kind of people that it attracts. It attracts the worst people. Okay, these people. There's two types of people in the world, Mark, in my worldview: people that build, people that make things, people that try to create things, and then there's other people that want to boss other people around. And these are damaged people. I don't want to make psychological
Mhm.
things, but there's something wrong with these people. I don't if they have they want to be in charge, and so they don't bring anything good to the table. It's like Milton Friedman, the famous economist, that he was interviewed in the 70s, and he was talking about all this, and the other person was a big left-wing person. He's like, well, what about this, what about that? He's like, where are you going to find these angels in society, these great angels, these perfect people that are going to guide us to the this is not how it is. And so he tapped into this, and people don't understand something like about the United States. is very complicated. It's like any regime, any administration, even in the Soviet Union or in Germany in the 30s and 40s. It's not one man making all the decisions. There's all kinds of bureaucracies and different interests and people competing to try to get ahead. They're all sociopathic. They're all narcissists. They're all working their own deals. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's not like you can just come in. And so when you have 40 years, 50 years of post-war decline since the 70s here, you can't turn it around in one administration. It's impossible. Okay. And so what you can do in the United States, and if you look at previous presidencies, it's very hard to get. You mentioned it. You have to do the same thing here. It's the art of consensus building. I have to give you. We used to have that here back in like the 80s. There was a time when you had a guy like Ronald Reagan and the Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill. They would get together. They wouldn't insult each other. They had their differences and they would get a deal done. I'll give you this, you give me that. That's how it works in a democracy. You have to get a compromise. You're not going to get everything that you want in a negotiation. And so we don't have that anymore. We have a very polarized society. This guy's tapping into it, and it's, nothing's getting fixed. And so now you're in a situation where I can't, he's not interested in doing that. He's not interested in having those conversations. And that's what you have to do to be successfully domestically. What he can do, and what all presidents can do, is they can pretty much do whatever they want overseas. No one stops them, as you notice. I don't care who it is, Obama, Bush, this guy. And so that's where they end up focusing, because hey, I could do whatever I want. Who's going to stop me? You know what I mean? The Congress doesn't defund it. They don't they don't try to stop it. Okay, so they just sit back. And so this is what they do. And so I think he has a view that his advisors, that what I call, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Monroe Doctrine. During the
Yes.
Monroe presidency, the Western Hemisphere was going to be the United States. We weren't going to let European powers come in.
Yeah.
Well, I call this the Donroe Doctrine. And this is kind of like control the Western Hemisphere, because I think the world is devolving into, and I'm not saying it's an agreement, but this is what I think is going to happen. The United States is pretty much going to have to recede. It cannot maintain its empire as large as it was during the Cold War. You're seeing this already with the situation in Iran. Where's the great U.S. military? The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Anyway, that was the whole main thing when I was in the Navy. I was in the naval service. That was our whole main thing, to maintain and keep clear the sea lanes for commerce. Well, we're unable to do that for some reason. So collapsing back into the Western Hemisphere. China, I think, is going to end up emerging as kind of in Asia being the dominant situation. And I'm not really sure where Russia fits into this. And because it could go either way, depending on how things go. And the thing that concerns me is what happens to Europe. There's what, in the bloc, there's what, 4, 5, 600 million people,
Hmm.
and they're making every decision that's put in front of them. They're making the wrong decision, and so they're kind of like stuck. They don't know what to do. They're like you said. I don't want to use the word scared. I think there's a big concern. Hey, everything, this security blanket we had, we were able to have these big welfare states because the United States was footing the bill for the defense and all these things. Now, Germany and all the commission's talking about we're going to spend $800 billion on remilitarize. This is the last thing that people in Europe want to see, is Germany remilitarizing 3 times in the last 100 years. I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even trying to be funny. Is this a good idea? I don't think
No, it's
so.
not. It's not a good idea. You can add to that that say 25, 30%, 35% of the jobs are going to disappear from AI. And I know because I'm in a software company, so I really know what AI can do. Yeah, and people have no clue. They have no clue what's coming. And there's all those white collar jobs. I think 30, 40% are just gone in 10 years. They are just gone. And we have bad demographics. So,
Yes.
well, there you are.
That, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I didn't even go there, but this is a thing that concerns me here too. And I try to tell people in the circles I go into with groups of people. And it's like I listen to them, like a lot of young people. They tell, "Oh, I just going to university for what? Computer science." I'm thinking to myself, why don't you go to the trade school over here and learn how to be a plumber or an air conditioning and heating guy? You're going to
John,
make 120 grand a year. There's not AI. I already use AI agents myself, and I don't even know what I'm doing, and it's automated my life.
I will tell you a personal story. Listen to this. I have two sons. One of them is 18 and the other one is 16. Yeah. The 18-year-old guy is like his dad. He talks too much. He's overconfident. He makes friends. He's just, he's living the life. Um, the little one is the quiet type. He's now 16, but 5 years ago he was 11, 12, and his mom and I were, a bit worrying about. You always worry about your kids, but how is he going to develop, and what is he going to do? The oldest one, he studies marketing and communication. Yeah. The youngest one wants to be a welder. He met guy, this is a true story, online. He is gaming and, they're in
Oh yeah, yeah.
groups, and I don't know, I'm too old for this stuff. And they started talking. The guy said, "Yeah, I'm a welder in America, and it's great, and all kind of project, making a lot of money." So my son comes up to me. He says, "Dad, I want to be a welder." I said, "Okay, if you want to be a welder, go ahead, but you have to be a good welder, the best there is." And so we bought him a welding machine by Christmas. It was on the, the Christmas tree. And now he is practicing with my dad, his grandpa, in the shed, with all the lights going off of the
Oh
welding.
yeah,
The
yeah.
neighbors are asking, what the hell is going on? So now, 5 years ahead, now I'm starting to learn about bolts. So he said, what jobs are one of the left in marketing and communication? Welder. So
No,
it's
I mean,
5 years, it's keep turning.
I'm shocked. I mean, I'm not shocked because I've had these conversations with some other folks, and I try not to be. Unfortunately, I think because you seem like a very switched on guy. I know I'm switched on. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I know what's going to happen. And most people don't even can conceptualize it. They have such a recency bias or anchoring. They say, well, today is fine because yesterday was fine. So today's fine. So tomorrow will probably be fine. They don't understand, like you said, the wave. I saw the wave of like a lot of my relatives, they went through the deindustrialization of the U.S. They were a lot of them blue collar workers. They did very well. I mean, they had high school education, but they were at the end of it, and so there was nothing for their children after that. It decimated working class tradespeople, all of these things. Okay, and we used to have up to at one time in this country, 25% of the workers were unionized, and it created a balance. And that's all gone. And so now, like you said, this this AI situation is going to come through, and it's going to do something similar to this white collar situation. It's going to and I don't see one person in 100 that actually. I mean, I don't even know the full extent, but I can see the tsunami coming, and it's like you need to get out of the way. So I think that it won't just be. Look, I think, like you said, if you're in a craft, I think what's going to be very good to get into is, like you said, some kind of craft that AI can't dislodge, or even robotics. Like welding's very important because a human can move in different.
Mhm.
Robots are not to that point yet, like in Star Wars, going around doing everything. It's not like that. It'll be many years for that happens. But I also think that a thing that's going to be important that I'm actually looking for investments or ways to get involved with. I have like friends in Poland and the Czech Republic. They created these bespoke. They create these branded smoked meats, certain kind of pork, or like in Spain they have a certain ham
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
smoked with certain kind of shells from almonds. I don't remember, but anyways, and then it's like a bespoke product. It's the quality is so much higher that they can still create a market and they can do well. You see what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
think very high quality bespoke type things, and also if you can find something like that, because people are tired of like generic crap slop, and if they do have some wealth, and I do think that society is bifurcating, K-shaped. You have very wealthy, and I think those are the two things. If you can find some kind of bespoke business to be into, or these trades. And I don't know how it is in the Netherlands or Europe, but in the US, when I was going through school, we had trade schools. I would go for the morning, study English, calculus, whatever, science, and then in the afternoon, I would go to the trade school and study the welding, metalworking, and then I would go work at a company a couple days a week, and I was like an apprentice there. We
Yeah.
don't have that anymore.
No, that's what I hope my son is gonna get his degree. We are struggling to the end, but yeah, next year he's going to something like that, and
Okay.
they are screaming for young guys over there. Please come
Oh
to
yeah.
us because there's a lot of work. There's not a lot of technical people, so yeah, he's 16 and he's gonna get a contract, and just like you said, in the morning you go into school, and in the afternoon you go out working, and yeah, I hope it does well. Let me switch subject a little bit uh, because we are talking about technical jobs, and I'm the only Dutch channel that talks about uranium. And also in the uranium business, you hear a lot of people, screaming up of shortage of technical people. Um, so we're going to switch to the uranium, and I have a very difficult question for you, John. So I need like peak John Polomny brain activity here. So now what? Here it comes. What is the latest bearish news you heard about uranium?
Bearish news.
I'll wait.
Oh, this is a question I get asked. I don't want to be one of those guys, but uh, I think what will happen, if you want to say bearish, it'll initially be a little bit bearish. Well, bearish
I don't
for
mean bad news. I mean bearish news.
I mean, I've thought about this quite a bit. The only thing that I can think is that you have a tail risk for some type of nuclear accident, and it still won't derail it long term because there's no other option at this point. Um, uh, I think that if you had some nuclear accident like a Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island, which is difficult to have with the new technology, but regardless, or if something like that, some very like tail risk, because I just don't see. It's amazing to me. I don't know if you know this or not. I see you've been listening to me for 3 years. There was a time when I first started my YouTube channel where myself and maybe two other people were talking about nuclear power coming back. We were castigated. We were made fun of.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
uh, I met this guy in the UK. His name's Malcolm Rawlingson. He worked in nuclear power plants his whole life. We talked about this. We had like a 3 hour interview,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we
I
said
know him. Yeah.
it's going to come back, and this is why it's going to come back, even in Japan, because I lived in Japan for 3 years. I worked in Japan. They have no option. There is no other option now. So when you say what's bad news, I don't know of any right now that's going to derail it. I think the real risk for investors and speculators is it's very hard put a to put a position on to take advantage of the uranium market. This is where it's difficult. This is what I find even more difficult because it's so bullish, but then you're like, okay, what do I buy
Mm.
to take advantage of this? What do I do? And of course, there's been a lot of speculation in some of these SMRs, and people have, I mean, I don't get involved in that, but there's so many, excuse my language, crappy companies.
Yeah,
It's very hard
yeah,
to put a position on. You know what
yeah,
I mean? I
yeah,
mean, yeah, you could buy Cameco, but it's overpriced if you look at the valuation. So,
yeah.
what I try to tell people is, and maybe I'm getting away from the answer. You want me to stop, but I'm not trying to be funny about it. I have thought about what would derail it. I
Mm,
don't. That's the only thing I can see. But I think the most challenging thing and difficult thing is to find a way, a vehicle to investment vehicle to take advantage of it. That's legit. You can buy I mean, people go out and what I think a lot of people do is they get the story. It's not hard to understand, and you can look at the math and all this stuff, and then they go out and they start getting on these message boards, whatever. They find this junior company, and this is where they get themselves in trouble because it's like they fall in love with the company. This is the best company, and they don't understand that the thing that what the asset is, how it's going to be developed. I mean, some asset in the middle of the desert with no water. And it's like, how are you ever going to develop this? And things like that. They get, and then the company just keeps issuing shares, and they're like not understanding things. So I think this is part of the not necessarily the story itself, but the danger or the hard part is how do I manifest? How do I put a money to work that's actually going to be able to benefit from this story? That seems to be the most difficult part in my mind.
Yeah, I completely
I
understand.
mean, I'm interested. You asked the question, so you tell me what you've obviously given the thought. What is the bearish case?
I don't know. I think the most bearish case is changing regulation in Australia.
Oh, well,
Um,
that can happen. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, and they have like 30% of uranium in the ground, but okay, it's not out tomorrow, and I know. So to me, yeah, we are just riding this train until 2035, and then we'll see.
I mean, what we
And
need to see. I mean, this is what I think. I mean, you're exactly right. I've always said this. It's not like there's a shortage of uranium in the ground,
no,
but to your point, it's like until I don't really want to talk about XYZ Junior that's, trying to bring some brownfield project that couldn't even get traction in the last uranium bull market. I want to see Rio Tinto. I want to see BHP. I want to see Lundin's come in and say, okay, we got the legislation changed in Australia, and we're going to put $5 billion into developing this complex. And then the question becomes, well, who are all the people that know how to mine uranium? Where are they all at? Where are the
there you go.
workers? Where is all of
Yeah,
the? So I think for the scope of this move in prices that we're going to see over the next couple years, that will probably eventually bring some of these people in. It's like, everybody talks about the Arrow deposit in Canada. That's years away from being developed. It's like, and Cameco and Kazatomprom understand this, and they're but I mean, you listen to Grant Isaac, man. He's
yeah,
like he's like a shark. If you
yeah.
watch his interviews and
He's
just
a
his
smart guy.
eyes and how he talks, he knows exactly how Cameco is going to come out of this. That they're a lot of people made fun of Cameco and said they didn't know what they were doing and blah blah blah, and they wrote all these contracts at low prices. But I think that they're going to end up. It's going to end up in this deal they made for Westinghouse with BlackRock. I think is already starting to pay dividends. So I think that again, but you're going to be overpaying for something like that. But then again, you know, I don't know. It's one of those things. But I think we really need to see the super big miners come in and then that really know what they're doing, identify a complex. I mean, look at Cameco. I mean, they asked Grant Isaac on one of these interviews, one of my buddies interviewed him, and they asked the guy straight up. He said, I don't see anything out there, any projects out there right now that Cameco would want to buy. I mean, I don't know. I think he enjoyed saying that. You
Yeah,
know what I
but
mean? You
of
could,
course he's saying that.
of course,
Even if
of course, of
what else
course.
can he say?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
So,
gonna
but
buy
you,
next gen tomorrow.
yeah, but
That's not gonna happen.
next gen needs a partner. So if I see some legitimate company step up and say, okay, we're ready to put couple $1 billion to work, they're not going to. I mean, the CEO's getting, doing Formula One at stuff. So I don't know. But I mean, I'm very excited about it. Of course, I think I've never seen anything like this in my investing career where something is skewed so much. And it's just, every day, if you want to, you could just put together an aggregator and aggregate all the news, and you'd just be shocked. Every day it's something else. Somebody else is doing this, somebody else is doing that. This got approved, this startup, this reactor went critical. It's unbelievable. This old reactor, a lot of the Europe, it's amazing watching the zeitgeist change in Europe over the last 5 years, where, I mean, I still make the prediction that eventually just because of necessity, I believe that Germany will eventually change their mind on nuclear
Well,
power.
they already are talking about it.
Yeah.
So
So, and that was another one of the biggest dumb own goals of all time. But anyway, I don't want to like pile on Germany. It's just disappointing to me to watch how they've just kind of they have they they had such tremendous opportunity, and they just make a lot of bad decisions. You know what I mean? So unbelievable.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, that's how I feel about uranium. I'm very optimistic about it, and I feel like, I mean, it's not out of the question. I have said that I think you'll eventually see a situation where somebody's not going to play this right. It won't be a big company like Constellation or Duke. It'll be somebody that wasn't really switched on, and they'll have to take a D rate or something like that because they didn't get their fuel cycle right. Because I talk to people that go to the world the conference in London every year,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a lot of these fuel buyers, they're very smart guys. I knew some of them at Duke Energy, but they don't understand how the market works. They still think that, hey, there's plenty of uranium, and if we need it, it's the recency bias, it's the anchoring. Hey, the last cycle wasn't a problem to get. Why would it be a problem now? Just because
Yeah.
Mike
Yeah.
Alkin says it's a
Yeah.
problem, who's this guy?
I
You
love
know?
Mike Alkin, the way he talks. It's just, yeah,
So,
I can listen to it all day. It's just, I've been in uranium since 2020, and
oh
I
wow,
was really thinking to myself, I can't be that smart. I just,
oh yeah.
this is not right. I can't be that smart. But I started to listen to all the guys on internet, and I thought to myself, well, I have to shove some money in here, because if this all is true, it's gonna be bingo.
Well, you must have done well. So, if you've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
in since
yeah.
2020,
I
yeah, yeah,
bought like
good.
Chemico at $12.50, and
Oh yeah,
next gen at 90 cents or so. So yeah, and I'm not selling, John. I mean, nothing is changed. Nothing is solved. I mean, it's only getting worse. So prices are going up. So, and yes, it will come down 50%. And but I don't give a shit. I just ride it until the top. I'm trying to catch the top. But
well,
I'm
this is what.
aiming not I'm not I'm not even aiming in price, but more in years. So 2030, 2032. That's then I know. Okay, now I probably have to sell. But hey,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's when you've taken this is how the real generational wealth is created. I try to caution people, they'll be like, well, I've had people write to me and say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never made any money in uranium. I'm thinking, I show them that I put the charts up on the channel. I was like, okay, well, where were you back here? I mean, I remember talking to Trader Ferg one time, and I was buying Paladin at like 12 cents or something like this.
yeah,
So we were
yeah,
joking about it. So I mean, this is like you said, like 2020 already. So, anyways, I'm like you. I think it's going to go. I think it's going to surprise people of how high it goes, just
yeah,
because it's going to have to go to a point to incentivize real mining companies to get involved. Because Cameco won't be able to do it all on their own, and they don't want to because they know though they and Kazatomprom know they basically can control the market now. It's like a duopoly, if you will. These little rinky-dink brownfield projects. I mean, I've got Encore Energy up the road here. I mean, they're still
yeah,
struggling.
yeah.
I mean, it's come on. They had to
Oh,
bring one of the directors out of retirement. One of the board members, he was like 80. He was one of the grandfathers, the original, like back in the Utah boom in the 60s and 70s. You know what I mean? So because the guys couldn't get it together out there in the putting the well fields together. So anyway, yeah.
all the old guys are leaving. Borshoff is leaving. Mark Chalmers is leaving. Who's the guy from Bill Sheriff?
Yep.
They're all gone. Who are the
And
new guys?
exactly. There's been such a gap.
Yeah.
I stay away from UEC, so I don't even want to talk about that company. So or that.
I'm a shareholder in UEC, but
Oh, are you?
yeah,
Well, let me put it this way: the stock is very. They know how to promote. I'll give them that.
yeah. Adnani is a
Hey,
smart guy.
he's not dumb. I
He's not
agree.
dumb.
I've talked to him a couple times at conferences. He's not a dumb guy, and he is probably one of the best promoters I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
yeah.
So, anyway,
Maybe last question. What about Africa, John? Are you invested in Africa in any way or form?
so actually, I am. It's kind of hard to do that also, but it's becoming easier. I have both. I have. Uh, I think you have to look at Africa. You can't just look at and say Africa. You have to say kind of like certain countries in Africa. I mean, I think there's 52 different countries. I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
difference between what you're seeing like in Ethiopia and Rwanda than like
Yeah.
Equatorial Guinea. You know, these are different types of countries. So
Yeah.
I think there's opportunity there. Um, Actually, I had a pretty good investment that I thought was doing well as a turnaround was IHS Towers. It was like the fourth largest tower company. They had a lot of things in Nigeria and these places. And after the currency stabilized, they were turning the company around. And of course, somebody came in and bought it, out from under before we could get the full
Mhm.
effect. So I think, I've done dabbled around with some private investments also, like in some agriculture and
Okay.
also some fintech. Fintech is very booming in Africa because they're not gonna go through the like we did here. They're just jumping from everything's on mobile phones now, as you well know. I mean, you can transfer money, you can do all kinds of stuff, and it's very easy for people there. And I also think that it's kind of amazing to watch certain guys like one of my favorite guys that's made me a lot of money is like a guy like Robert Friedland. And I think that people don't understand like how big the resource is in like DRC. And people say, well, DRC, I don't want to look. Robert Friedland's been doing this for 30 or 40 years. He knows how to navigate Mongolia, the
Yeah.
Soviet Union, Kazakhstan, DRC, if anybody can do it. But
He's the
I think
copper
that
guy, is he?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like this company he put together, this Ivanhoe
I
Mines.
don't know.
They have that big Kamoa project, but they also have the Platte Reef project in South Africa that's ramping up. These are multi-decade projects. This is unbelievable. So and we don't have enough copper. This goes without saying. So I think the problem with Africa, of course, is that like I said, you have to kind of like do country by country, and it can be a little bit. There's a guy that has a he's lives in Tanzania, and he has an Africa fund, and I forget his name now. I think he's half Dutch. I think he's from the, his dad was from the he's half European and half something else, and
Okay.
he created like this Africa fund. It's done very well. Of course, he's boots on the ground, right? This is what I would do if I wanted to be in finance or business. That's one of the places I would go: Central Asia or certain countries in Africa. And I think you could do very well. I mean, I know a guy. One of my friends is from DRC, and he told me about a guy that went to Kinshasa. He was from Europe. I think he was from Italy, and he created this barbecue place. And he's a multimillionaire. It's in the center. Everybody goes there. They have all this barbecue stuff, meats and stuff, and he's killing it. Another guy that we know is Indian guys that created this bottled water company, but not the small bottles, like big 5 gallon. They have a treatment facility and people pay for that. So I mean, it's one of those things like they used to have. I'll finish on this. Like Central Asia is something I'm very, very excited about, like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan. People need to pay attention what's going on there. Basically, Uzbekistan, for example, was a country like North Korea like 5 or 6 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's basically pursuing market reforms. One of my friends is a portfolio manager there, guy from the U.S. He's lived there for 5 years. And just as they start changing their capital markets now, capital can flow in there. They had custody issues and some of these other things, but this is where you want to be. You can still buy things at like half of book or less. You know what I mean? Or PEs of 3 or 4, paying double digit dividends. I mean, nobody's there yet because why? Because it's hard to get there. It's hard. I mean, you can now you can open a brokerage account online. You can invest in this guy's fund or whatever. So I think there's opportunity there. I would like to get on a plane and go to Guyana with somebody that's adventurous because with all of the offshore oil that's pouring into this small country, there's got to be all kinds of real estate stuff going on. I mean, this
Yeah.
is what I saw in Mongolia in the 2000 mid 2000s when they had their boom, copper boom. The economy was growing at 15 or 17% a year. It was crazy. I had a friend of mine that was buying real estate, and it was like not advanced enough. You would just have like one of his friends with him that was kind of a rough guy from the US, kind of a big guy. They would just take like a garbage bag of cash to the deal, count the money out, and then they'd have to get the stamps. I mean, I would see him like I was at a coffee shop or cafe drinking a coffee, and I see him going across, and they're like, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm gonna close this, buy these apartments. Got the guy's got a garbage bag full of cash. I'm serious." So it's kind of wild, but this is where like I said before, I told somebody else the other day, and I'll finish here. Is like You people need to get out of what I call home country bias. They
Mm,
should make the world their oyster.
yeah,
They should learn what's going on, because I don't know how it is in Europe, but it's possible from the United States to make investments in these countries a lot. And it's not hard to go to these places if you want to go there and check it out yourself.
great story. Thanks.
So that's it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so let's wrap up here because we have been talking for an hour or so.
Okay.
Did we miss anything? We didn't even talk about Iran and Hormuz. That's a first.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a whole other thing. But
that's a yeah, it's all a different rabbit hole. But hey, yeah. Should we talk about it just briefly? What
okay,
I,
briefly,
I
I
just
mean, this is,
I just have one question. Why?
do you want me to give what I really think, or
Yeah,
what?
yeah. What you
Okay.
really think?
Okay. I think that you have a guy, uh, the president. I
Mm,
think the New York Times article in this case was pretty accurate about how it went down. Look, I don't want to, I'm not going to offend anybody, but I kind of use this coded term. We have a very strong lobby of people that are pro-Israel here in the United
mm,
States.
mm,
Not just Zionist Jews that are very wealthy and well highly placed in society. Um, we also have a very large, what they call evangelical Christianity here. I don't share their views, but they're very pro-Israel because in their belief system, Israel, before the Messiah comes back, Israel will be attacked, and this is going to trigger this. So that people like Pete Hesketh, who's the Secretary of War, believes this stuff. I think this is a heresy. And people say, well, why should I care about that? Because 50, 60 million people here in the United States believe this. And so these are large constituencies of people. And so you have a president, he was on a roll. He's a gambler. I've seen this in casinos before. I used to play poker, blackjack, these things, crap table. I see people get on a run and they start, it's called getting on a heater. They can't lose. Okay. And so, hey, Venezuela, look how that went down. We're controlling the oil. And Greenland, I bullied the Danes in Europe. We're going to get our way up there. So they come to him, and the people in, Benjamin Netanyahu and these other donors that here in the U.S. and some of these other Phoenicians, this is what I code word I use.
mm,
They This is what they've wanted to do for a long time. So they see the guy, they basically bullshitted him into this, and the man Trump surrounds himself with yes men and sycophants. I told this story on another interview. You've probably seen this in corporate. I don't know how it is in corporate there. In corporate here, I came up through the ranks. I started on tools. At one point, I was a plant manager. I was like a director of construction. These are high levels. I've been in boardrooms before, and my mentors, uh, they'd like to have me around because we'd have a meeting about something like this project. Or I remember a project, for example, we were going to buy this wind farm, and they were talking about buying it. And I go, that I know the history of it. I know the guys that work there because it was in my around here. I said, do not buy it. The sea, all the breeze comes off the sea and everything's corroded. It sucks. Send some guys. Let me pick 3 or 4 guys. They go there for a week and they know what to look for. And I'll give you a report. And all the other finance people, they never even been in a wind turbine. Oh, but the deal looks good on an Excel
yeah, yeah,
spreadsheet.
yeah,
You know how it is. The guys come back. It was a shit show.
yeah.
I mean, we can't buy this. You would put a screwdriver on a terminal and it would crumble because of the degradation, because of
Yeah,
the
the corrosion.
sea salt.
Yeah.
We can't buy this. We'll spend all of our money in maintenance. So you don't have that in that administration. You have yes men and people that have their own agenda. What you will have, I'll use this as an example. This Joint Chiefs of Staff Chief General Kane. He's not like old school. Old school guy would be like, "This is the dumbest idea I ever heard of. Why are we attacking Iran? They're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. Why isn't Tulsi Gabbard in the room here telling you that? That all the We know what they're going to do. They've already gamed every war game we've done. We've lost. We can't do this. This is going to cause all what we see now." No one says that. What did General Kane say? This would be very difficult, but we can do it, boss. Our men and women. This is how. You see what I'm saying? It's a non-answer answer.
Yeah.
If Trump was a real leader, which he isn't, because he's on a heater and he wants to do it because he's like, I can go down in history. he's had a hard on. I don't know if you know, this is a slang word here. He's got a problem with Iran for 40 years. You can go back and look at interviews from the 80s. We
Hmm.
need to take their oil. We need to do what are you talking about, man? And so when you surround yourself with these people, who wasn't in the room when they made this decision? The vice president, who was against this, people like Tulsi Gabbard, they were excluded from the room. And so Bibi Netanyahu comes over, they put the Mossad chief on the TV, and they tell him, "Hey, we got to do this. They're 2 weeks away, and you're going to be the great. You're going to be like, Harold as Caesar, the great
Yeah,
conqueror. You
yeah.
you fix the world." And so they did it, and it's blown up in their face now. And now
Weapons,
what?
weapons of mass destruction. Yeah,
Yeah, we've been 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon in Iran for 47 years.
yeah, yeah,
Nobody. This is what comes down to, Mark. Just quickly, is people don't really know what's going on. They don't want to know. They don't have the time. We used to have something called JCPOA that President Obama negotiated, where inspectors were going in there. Okay, they weren't 2 weeks away. We had sanctions on. We had investigators going in.
yeah,
The
yeah,
previous boomer Ayatollah had a fatwa, okay, against nuclear weapons. And people could say, well, that doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does to them, okay? And so you go in and kill all of those people now, all of that boomer people. So who are you getting now? You're getting all the young aggressive Turks now. It's not like the IRGC just dissipates. Everybody just moves up ranks. So now you've got guys in their 40s and early 50s that are
yeah,
saying, no, 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 no.
yeah.
We're gonna. If you didn't want them to have a nuclear weapon, you've just done something. Look at North Korea. Does anybody attack North Korea?
No.
No. Why?
Yeah,
Because they have a nuclear deterrent.
yeah,
I can guarantee you that Iran is going to be working towards a nuclear
yeah,
deterrent.
yeah,
Not only that, not only that, um, I don't know how it is in the Netherlands right now, but you know, when you take 13 million barrels of oil, whatever we're 10, whatever number you want to use, when you have 100 million, this is like giving the world economy a cardiac arrest, a heart attack. We haven't seen the full repercussions of this yet. And what's it going to do for agriculture? We already have wheat plantings in the U.S. down since 1919 levels, lowest since 19. Because if you're a farmer here, wheat's at what, $5 a bushel. It hasn't went up in price, but your fertilizer and fuel has. So if you're a farmer, you're like, I'm not going to make the decision to spend a bunch. I saw it in the Netherlands, for example, or maybe it was in Belgium or
no,
France.
no, it's
The
the fishing and yeah, yeah, they
fishing
are, yeah,
fleet. So like, if I go out and catch the fish, it consumes all the fuel cost.
yeah,
It's not worth it. So these are all second and third order effects that Mr. Trump and his sycophants, they didn't even look at or consider or even
no,
know about.
yeah.
But this, last thing I'll say, this creates opportunities for investors and speculators, because I mean, this is really going to be bad, man, because this ceasefire is not holding, and they really can't do anything. And what it's doing, I think, is exposing the United States. The United States was riding on this view where everybody was saying it's this great power, it can do whatever it wants, and they don't understand. I mean, it's amazing to me to say, during World War II, you saw was the emergence of the aircraft carrier, and it kind of made obsolete the battleship or these fleets, because you could strike these things with aircraft from 100. I mean, I play a game online about this right now, carrier task force, and you can hit them. So it made it obsolete. And so now new drones technology and these missile technologies, they've made the aircraft carrier obsolete.
Yeah,
And so, you're talking about, I'm going to put all these Marines on Karg Island. And I'm thinking to myself, have you not watched the videos from the Russian-Ukrainian war? I mean, 80% of the casualties are from drones.
yeah,
People, it's like the generals are famous for fighting the last battle. So I don't know. They've got themselves in a real mess here. They've got us all in a big mess here. But again, I think I'll give you an example. There's a lot of I sold a lot of my oil companies, oil producers. People say, well, why would you do that? Because they were a large cap, BP, Total. These things are not going to double. But what hasn't really moved yet is small cap oil services. I'll throw some names. You got a company in Norway, Oslo Exchange, ProSafe. It went through bankruptcy. They make accommodation vessels. Okay, they're booked out till 2027. You can go on the Singapore Exchange. There's probably a half dozen shipyards, engineering firms that make all kinds of. I think offshore oil exploration is going to boom now, because we cannot have a reliance. people are going to start. You alluded to it earlier in the interview. People are going to rewire themselves to, we can't rely on others for everything. If we have
Yeah.
asset, the North Sea, if you get the right government in the UK, it's going to boom.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even in the Netherlands, you had this great big gas fields in the North Sea, and they've decided not to, or shut them down, or not exploit them fully.
No, it was is a gas field on land in Groningen and in the northern territory, but yeah, the ground started shaking and everybody started complaining. So shut we shut the gas fields down. So we could import gas from Russia, but hey, there's no pipeline anymore. So there's your problem. Yeah,
So, anyways, I think these things create opportunity. I mean, to me and you, if you and I were just sitting down drinking coffee, you seem like a reasonable guy. We'd be like, this is stupid. This is what we need to do, but we're not in charge of anything. So, we're responsible for taking care of our family and the people that rely on us. So, that's how I do it. I try to look at it for the way it is. I don't necessarily like it, but then I say, okay, how can I hate to say this because it sounds bad, but how do I profit from it? Because I have to take care of my own family. I can't control what this president does or what IRGC. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. I think the right words are there's always something actionable to
Exactly.
discover. Okay, John, I had great fun. Thank you for the conversation. Where can people find you online?
So all of my publishing from my newsletter is on Substack, Actionable Intelligence Alert. You can go there. Then I do this weekly video on YouTube, which you said you watched.
Yeah, love
Some
it.
people like it, some people don't. Basically, talk about whatever's in the news and what applies to the investments that I'm in. I'm not just in that. People will always say like I'm a natural resources guy. I look at anything that's cheap and has value. Like I'm big on Latin America right now, but we don't have time to get into all that. But yeah,
Next
the
time.
video on YouTube is kind of an introduction. And people can. I try not to be political, but I end up being political. You either like it or you don't. This is the way it is. So anyway,
Yeah.
appreciate you having me on, though. Thanks you.
Yeah,
I
great
enjoyed it.
stuff. Great stuff. I started my and then I'll wrap up. I started my YouTube channel with in mind that I didn't want to talk about politics, but yeah,
It ends up there.
it
I mean,
ends up there.
you can't avoid it.
You can
You're not gonna talk about the Strait of Hormuz if you're an oil investor.
yeah,
This is crazy.
it's not
So
possible. So
yeah.
yeah, that's a lesson learned. Okay, John. All the best to you in Texas, and hopefully until next time. Bye bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.